when I was 20 years old, I had to choose between going to college full-time, working full-time, and surfing. And then this is so bad, but I was like, money talks. Of course, I'm going to try and work full-time. I took a 5-year hiatus off from surfing. I didn't surf for a really long time.
Like competition-wise?
And regular.
Really?
Yeah, I took 5 years off. I was like, this is not even feeding my soul anymore.
Wow.
And from 2021 to about 26, I didn't surf. I worked at Express for a little bit. I moved to California to help a friend out. She had a baby. She had postpartum, so I flew out there, helped her for a little bit. And then I came back home and I worked for Kate Spade for 2 years. And I handled the area support center, which was the intake and inventory of the state of Hawaii.
That's crazy.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that. They're like, what do you mean? Like, you worked retail? I was like, that's how life just went. I knew surfing wasn't going to pay the bills.
Yeah.
School at the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was wasting money going to school because I was taking these prereqs that didn't even had nothing to do with what I at the time wanted to do. There was times I wanted to be a lawyer. There was times I wanted to be a vet. There was times I wanted to be a nurse. There was times I wanted to be an agent, all these things. And I was just like, I don't know what path. So I'm just going to stick to what I know. And I worked retail. And then 27, was it 27 or 26? The longboard tour for WSL started back up. And Kelia at the time wasn't really doing contests either. And she knew when I was working at Kate Spade, she was like, the contest was in March. So we had this conversation in December. And she came to me and she was like, oh, there's this contest in Australia at Noosa. Like, should we do it? And her too, she hadn't done contests. And I was like, should this be our comeback? And this is when we were 26. And this is when like Khalees and Sophia were all starting to come up. And we're like, oh, we got so many kids to go up against. Like, and she was like, nah, let's just do it. Yeah. So I took PTO. I went to go surf. I made it pretty far, I think quarters or something. And I was like, oh,
Auntie still got it.
Hey, I was like, hammer. I was like, oh, okay, Auntie still got it. Okay. And after that, and then after that, Roxy reached out to me and was like, we want to sponsor you. And this was interesting. This was a time, growing up, especially with surf companies, they struggled with representing everyone. Like you see a poster and it's like a girl, blonde hair, blue eyes, nothing against her, but it was a model.
Yeah.
And I never looked like that. Yeah. I looked like a freaking pit bull. I came out looking like I was ready for swing. I came out like literally 9 pounds, 2 ounces out of my mom, looking like I was lying.
You came up with your hands.
No, seriously. My dad says I was such a big baby. My shoulders, I mean, obviously my shoulders are freaking massive. I should have been a linebacker. But my shoulders were so big that when they pulled me out and she had to have a C-section, they pulled me out and I supposedly grabbed the scalpel. Like I was just like an active kid as soon as I came out. But I was so good at sleeping and eating, which I'm still really good at. And I grabbed the scalpel and I like almost swiped the doctor with the scalpel. I don't know how much that's true, but that's what I was told. And I was, so.
Oh.
Yeah. And then so after that, in Australia, Roxy reached out and they were like, yeah, like you just have your own type of, you're your own type of person. Like for the longest time, I've never tried to conform to any type of societal standard. Not because I just was trying to be, the person that was like, no, F this, F that. I just didn't want to. Yeah. I was just like, I'm going to surf. Same thing now. I still deal with it now. When people are like, you're on a longboard, you should be surfing like this. I'm like, you should shut your mouth. Is what you should do.
You're just doing what you love.
Yeah.
And in the way that you want to do it.
Yeah. And so, and then I got signed with Roxy for 5 years and then had a great time. Got to surf and hang out with all my friends, and that was crazy because at like with surfing, you always think like, okay, you got to get sponsored at this time. You got to train from 10 to 14 years old. You should be having a sponsor by the time you're 16, and you should be winning contests. You should be doing this. But it was really cool I take pride in this because I was 27 years old when I got signed. And to me, that's, and a longboarder, and that's kind of unheard of. So I had a late start in my career, but I do not regret it at all. The amount of times I was trying to figure out like operations and sales in retail has gotten me so far in life. And I think every kid should do either a service job, whether it's like working in a restaurant or retail, like understanding, communicating, comprehending, like this person needs this, okay, like and constantly changing with each person that walks into the store. I think that's so important. So important.
Yeah, I agree. I think a customer service job, even working at a restaurant, it teaches you how to be kind to others, or actually really be disciplined in yourself, not to get mad at others as well.
Patience.
Patience,
teaches you patience.
Yeah,
it's a very disciplinary type of job where it's like, it's not so much like it's like a trade work. You have to weld certain things. You have to build this motor out or whatever, but it's very, you walking in, or actually this is a thing that I saw, Kelia posted, and she told me, she was just like, oh, I give you props for doing like retail for all those years. Cause like I say hi to people when they walk in and they don't even say hi. And I was like, exactly. You can't let that ruin your spirit, because then that doesn't do anything for anyone else that's going to walk in. Is you hold on to that anger. It's like, all right, well, everyone's going to have a shit day then. Sorry, I swear, but
no.
Everyone's going to have a crappy day. And and that's the thing, is like retail taught me that no matter who comes in pissed off, raging, you have to keep that calm face and let it pass. So I feel like retail has taught me a lot.
That's cool. It's like you're not forced, but I guess you get into the habit of giving aloha and not expecting anything in return, like saying hi and not necessarily expecting everyone to say hi or greet you back. But when it is, you're like, okay, cool, they acknowledge me.
Yeah, and it feels good when they do, because you have the opposite ends of the spectrum of people who will tell you literally F off, and ones that'll be like, oh my gosh, how's your day? And you have a conversation, you spark up a conversation, you make a sale, boom, everyone's day is great.
That's cool. That's super cool. Nice. So you got signed 27, and then you started to compete a little bit for 5 years, or just do like ambassador stuff and whatnot. And that's super inspiring, because like you said, it's not very common in the surf world, especially in the longboarding world, especially in the women's longboarding. I guess let me try to explain it in sports terms for the guys out there. So bros, listen up. It's like if Kurt Warner was, finally made it to the NFL when he was a little bit older, and then he got signed with the Rams, or like Alex Pereira finally making it to the UFC when he was in his late 20s or early 30s, and then fought Adesanya and then won the middleweight title. I think that's how I would explain it. Yeah.
Whatever you said. Yep. That's it.
No, there are some athletes who, they start their career a little later.
Yeah.
And still have success.
And what's funny is, like, I feel like the later you can start it, not the later, I shouldn't say that, but for me in particular, starting it later was like a really good thing, because I wouldn't have met the people that I did. And for so long, I used to beat myself up about it. Before I went on that 5-year hiatus, I was just like, I should be here. I should be there. I should be doing this. I should have. It was a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas. And the second you let yourself sink into that, that's where nothing starts to work. Nothing. Anything that you start dabbling into, it'll fail, because you're so caught up in what could have been, what should have been, what shouldn't have been. It's a really dark place to be. And my therapist she'll always tell me this. This is the one thing I always tell everyone, especially with surf contests, because it happens so fast. You got to just learn from it, move on. Is depression lives in the past and anxiety lives in the future. So you have to stay in the now. Yeah, you can plan for as much as you want for next month. Something could happen, you know? And you can always look back and be like, oh man, I should have caught that wave that in that last second, but you didn't. The matter of the fact is, this is where we are now. How are you going to learn from that? And that's what I always tell the people that I coach to is, I know it's hard. Write down what you want to accomplish in this one heat. And while you're there, and it doesn't work for everyone. Everyone is coached and takes in information differently. But it's important to know what the goal is and to try and accomplish it. You're not always going to. But to, like, first heat, I'll tell the girls, like, check off one box on your list. Catch the biggest wave of the heat, check it off. Get the highest score of the heat, check that off. And yeah, so yeah.
That's good. Depression lives in the past, anxiety lives in the future.
Yeah.
Very true. I think that's one of the hardest things for us as humans to master, being in the present.
It's so
it's
hard.
It's very difficult.
It's very, very difficult, especially being in, like, for anyone, but especially in an athletic world, it's, you know, I should have done this. I would have got signed, because then you start to spiral, right? Off of that one little thing. Because I lost that heat, I'm like, I didn't get sponsored. Oh my gosh, I didn't win the money. Oh my gosh, I lost my placing. Now I have to requalify. And and a lot of the times people will live in that. I did.
Yeah.
I did for a long time. I was like, I should have done this. I should have done that. I was so good at beating myself up about it that it took a 5-year hiatus to really understand why I was doing it, how it didn't help me, and that how can I pass that on to the next generation to not do that. And if they do, how to get themselves out of it. Because it's not easy. I mean, for the rest of our lives, we're going to struggle with that.
Yeah.
Depending on whether it's doing a podcast or whether it's still competing or surfing for fun. Like, there's always going to be that shoulda, coulda, woulda, what if. And it's learning how to deal with it, and the self-talk of, like, no, we're going to move on. We're going to learn from it. We're going to just move on. What can I do better next time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. What is your number one advice for being present?
Number one advice for being present.
Mine is just be present.
Just be present. That's a good one. Just be present.
Just be present. It's not that hard.
You know what it is? I'm gonna say this because it's I feel like a lot of people won't say this, is like, I struggle with anxiety. And for me, the things that they teach you is to get in touch with your senses. Look at what you're looking at. Really understand what you're looking at. Okay, I'm looking at that chair. The chair is black. I am touching this. What is this? Rattan?
Yeah, sure.
I'm touching wood. I'm smelling the fresh air. I'm smelling flowers. Like, I have to. There's been so many times I've had to do that, and especially before a contest, because I start to, during a like before your heat, you're like, you want everything to go perfect, and 0.0000001% it will ever happen. You will lose more than you win.
Yeah,
and that's in life too. You know, you'll get told no more than you get told yes. So it's really getting in touch with your senses and understanding where you are, and just take one step in front of the other. That's like the one thing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, for sharing that.